Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedrunning video. So in today's video I'm going to be building a mid-century family home, which surprisingly I've never actually built before. I've never built a mid-century family home. Now I have actually built a mid-century home before in the past. I might have done like 2 or something, I can't remember, but they've always been tiny homes, and that's just because I have for the longest time been so intimidated by mid-century houses just because of the roofing. Where the way that the roofing goes, I've always just had it in my head that I can't do it. There's no point me even trying to attempt it because it's just going to be a massive flop. So I've never actually attempted a mid-century family home or a mid-century home of this size before. And I'm actually really happy that I actually kind of took myself out of my comfort zone and did actually try and do it, because I'm actually really happy with this house. I think it's one of my favourite houses that I've built in a really long time, and I just really like it. So hopefully you guys like it as well. So if you watched my Oasis Springs Diner video, you would have known that this video was kind of coming, because I did actually speak about it in that video. If you haven't seen it, I'll actually leave a card on the screen now for it. But basically, I actually built a diner originally for just a restaurant in my save file in Oasis Springs. I always had it in my head that my save file was always going to include a diner in Oasis Springs. I don't know what it was, but it's just always kind of been in my head, and I finally built it about a week ago or so. And in that video I did actually mention that I was actually in the middle of building a house for the people that are actually going to own the restaurant in my save file, and so this is that house. It took me a little bit longer than expected. I was hoping that it would probably be my video after the diner video, but it wasn't. I actually did a spellcaster's cottage instead, and I think it was just because I was kind of intimidated to also furnish the house, because with this house, like I said, with the mid-century kind of look with the roofing, I was not in my comfort zone whatsoever. And I also wanted to bring that mid-century into the inside and make the house look like it was a still mid-century home, but it was kind of been updated here and there. Not massive improvements, but over the years the family have kind of done a few upgrades, or maybe just upgraded the furniture and stuff like that. And I really wanted it to feel like this house is a house that has had lots of just memories in it and fun, and the family has grown in this house. And I actually really love this house. It's actually got 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. I would have liked to have an extra bathroom, but it's just the way that the floor plan worked out, it just wasn't possible. So if you haven't seen my Oasis Springs Diner video, I'll give you kind of a backstory of the Sims that are actually going to live in this house, the family that's going to live here. So it's actually going to consist of 2 elders. They're going to be a mum and a dad, and then they've got their daughter who is an adult, and then also their daughter, so their granddaughter basically, is also going to live in this house. So it's actually kind of like a 3 generations kind of thing that's going to live in this house. And in my head, the backstory goes that the mum actually was married, maybe she got divorced, maybe her husband passed away. I haven't quite worked that out. I was kind of originally thinking maybe of a divorce, but now I'm thinking more into it. It'll be kind of interesting if he passed away or something. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out all the backstories for all the Sims in my save file. I want them to be as in-depth as possible and just have as much kind of backstory to them. And yeah, so I haven't actually quite figured it out. Either the mum's going to be divorced or she's going to be widow. I'm not completely sure yet, but it's going to be one of the 2. And she actually had to move back home to her mum and dad's house, probably because of financial issues. Maybe she couldn't afford after the divorce, or after her husband passed away. Maybe she just couldn't afford to live where she previously lived. So like I mentioned, this house does actually have 3 bedrooms. There is a bedroom for the elders, there is a bedroom for the adult, and there's also a bedroom for the child as well. Now, where there was 3 bedrooms, I've now got this backstory in my head of they have actually got another daughter. So the elders actually have 2 daughters, but the other daughter has actually moved out. And I'm thinking in my head that maybe the sister that lives in this house has a little bit of jealousy towards her sister, just because I'm thinking maybe her sister's going to be really successful. Maybe she's got a really nice big house, she's got a really big family, she's got everything in life that her sister wants. They're basically like her dreams are basically what her sisters live in, is the kind of backstory that I'm going along with in my head. And maybe she feels a little bit jealous of her sister because she didn't get that opportunity, whether it be from the divorce or her husband passing away. I'm not too sure, but I kind of feel like maybe she doesn't really like her sister as much just because of that, which I mean is a bit of a silly reason, but it's a Sims. I want to try and make it as creative as possible, and so I feel like that's quite a good backstory to go with, and that is why there was an extra bedroom in their house which they converted into the child's bedroom. I kind of like that backstory, but yeah, that is basically all about all the Sims that are going to live in this house. I'm not sure if they're going to have any other relatives. They probably will. They'll probably have some like distant cousins who will be working in the restaurant or something like that. I'm not too sure, but I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to try and make my save file as in-depth as possible and make really big family trees. So they'll probably have some family somewhere in one of the other worlds. But as you can kind of see, I've actually now started furnishing the back garden of this house. So this house does actually have 2 bars in, which I completely forgot about the outside bar, because where I actually did the whole building, like the structure of the house and then the back garden of the house on one day, and then I came back to it another day and did the furnishing of the inside, I completely forgot that I actually put a bar in the back garden as well. So this house does actually have 2 bars, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Maybe they just like to drink a little bit, I don't know. But this house does also have a pool and some sunbeds, and you can kind of see it with the sunbeds that I've gone a little bit out there. Normally I go for very plain sunbeds, and I like to keep it very just black, white, cream or brown, like very minimal colours. I never really experiment with all the crazy patterns that we've got on the sunbeds. They are really nice, but I just don't really know how to decorate around them, and I feel like sometimes if I put them in my regular family homes, they wouldn't really make as much sense as the family home that this one is. I don't know, but as you can kind of see, I am just doing this little seating area by the pool now, and I'm actually going to go in and just finish off this back garden by adding a little picnic table. I really need to use them more often because we've actually got so many picnic tables in the game, and it would be a good thing if I actually started using them a little bit more. But moving on, as you can see, I have now actually started furnishing the inside of this house. Like always, I did the wallpapering and flooring off camera, and especially the day that I built this, I took extra long picking the wallpapering and flooring just because where it is a style that I'm not very familiar with, I didn't really know what went where and what goes with what, and so I had to use quite a lot of Pinterest to kind of gather some inspiration. But I actually really like the colour palette for this house. So you can kind of see I've gone for mainly kind of like these white slats on the walls as well as some feature walls. So we have like this little really dark green wall over by the front door, and then we also have it featured around other places in this room. So the room that we're actually doing now is actually the lounge room, but the hallway, the lounge, the dining and the kitchen are basically all into one. The kitchen is kind of sectioned off with half walls, but it's basically all in the same room. But you can kind of see the colour palette for it. It's a very dark wood theme, so we've got the dark wooden doors that we actually got with, I believe they came with vintage Glamour stuff. When they first came out, I was obsessed with them doors. I wanted to use them in every single house possible, and they were the perfect door to use in this house, so I had to use them. And then we also have these dark wooden cabinets kind of by the TV area. I really wanted to have a built-in TV area because I feel like that's a little bit mid-century. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the kind of mid-century I was going for in my head. And then I actually mixed a few of the sofas with some of the armchairs. Now, whenever I do sofas and armchairs, I normally stick to the armchair that goes with that sofa, so if it was to come as a set. And I actually just decided to mix it up today when I was actually furnishing it. So I went for the Get Famous sofa, which is actually one of my favourite sofas in the game. I don't think I've used it in that swatch though. And then I actually went for some of the Tiny Living armchairs, which I absolutely love all of the stuff from the Tiny Living pack. There's actually quite a lot of the Tiny Living stuff pack in this build as well. So if you want to download it, I think the majority of the packs that I used would be Get Famous, Tiny Living, and maybe some like vintage Glamour and maybe bowling stuff, but I'll probably use little bits and bobs from different packs. But they're just kind of like the majority of the packs that I actually use in this build, just because them styles are very mid-century, especially Get Famous. And I was really happy that we had so many different objects to choose from when you're actually building mid-century houses, because I've never actually built a proper big one before. I've only ever built like tiny little ones, like tiny homes, so I was really happy with that. I also got to use the lamp that we got at Tiny Living. I think that is my favourite standing lamp that we now have. Originally, it was actually the one that we had from Vintage Glamour stuff. The kind of, I think it was called like a jellyfish lamp or something, but that is my new favourite. I absolutely love that, and I feel like you can use that in so many different types of houses as well, whether it be mid-century, modern, classic, like suburban, family homes, all different kinds of homes. I really love that lamp. As you can see, I also did just kind of skim over the dining room table area. So for the dining room table, I actually went for a Get Famous table, and then I actually mixed it in with the Tiny Living chairs. Now, I know it doesn't look like it actually matches, but if you actually look on the bottom of the chairs that I've actually used for the dining table, it's the exact same wood on the bottom of them, like the chair's arms, or no, the chair's legs, not the chair's arms, the chair's legs are the exact same colour as the table legs, and so I kind of felt like it really went, and I really wanted to use that style of chair because I just thought it was perfect for a mid-century home, and I really wanted to implement it somewhere in the build, and so I decided for it to be the dining room kind of area. As you would have seen, I did actually make that dining room area a little bit off-centered, and I just pushed it one tile to the right. It's not exactly symmetrical to the windows, it could be, but I was actually scrolling through the Get Famous catalogue. I filtered it just to be the Get Famous pack because there is so many different items in that pack and I didn't want to miss anything basically, and so I filtered through all of the things in that pack that came with that expansion pack, and I actually found this little kind of decoration table that looks like it's got some cups in it, it looks like it's got some books in it or something like that, and I really wanted to include it in the build just because it was so mid-century to me. So I did decide to move the dining table over just one tile just because I really wanted to fit it in. But now I have actually moved on and I've actually started furnishing the kitchen. Now with the kitchen, I actually started furnishing the kitchen last just because it was the biggest thing that I was kind of like scared about, not scared about, but I was kind of anticipating actually doing the kitchen just because I was a little bit worried that I might not pull it off as much as I wanted to. I am actually really happy with the kitchen. It's not as mid-century as some might seem, but I'm actually really happy with it. It's quite traditional, but I actually really love it, and this area actually does have a bar as well, so that is where the second bar comes in. And I just use these base game counters. I use this, I believe it's a Parenthood oven, which I felt like was so perfect for a mid-century house. And then I also used the Jungle Adventure fridge, which is quite a small little cute fridge, and I just thought that was so adorable to place into this kitchen. As you can see, I did actually just pull out a load of objects and just shove them right onto the floor, so then I could go around and just place them in there, like, so like basically giving them a home in another sense. I really wanted to include as many objects as possible. I really wanted to make the kitchen look very cluttered, very used, and just very well loved basically. And so I decided to go through the catalogue off camera and just get loads of different objects that I wanted to use and make sure that I didn't miss anything, because sometimes when I'm scrolling through the catalogue I'd take my time and I could just be there for ages, and so I decided to cut it out. But as you can see, we do just have a little coffee maker table thing with a little biscuit tin. We also have the little mug decoration, which hopefully we get another one day, because that is the only decoration of like coffee mugs that we actually have in the game, and we've got it with base game, and it'd be really nice to have another one. But now I'm actually going over to the other side of the kitchen where it was quite a large kitchen. I didn't want to have it be all completely counters just because it would be way too much and there's just not enough objects to put on the counters, and so I decided to make this bit into the little kind of bar area. So maybe in the winter this is where they come in and they have their drink. I mean, although Oasis Springs doesn't really get that cold, I was just kind of thinking about that in my head anyway. We actually use the, I believe it's a Get Famous bar, or it might be a bowling alley bar, bowling night or bowling alley, I'm never sure what that pack is called, but it's one of the two. I actually really love that bar, and I don't believe I've ever actually used it before, so I was really happy to use it in this build. I was finding myself using so many more objects and so many different objects that I've literally never even touched before, just because I've never actually built in this style, and I'm actually so happy with all the objects that I've used, and I feel like I'm gonna try and implement them into more of my other builds and not just mid-century houses. But as you can kind of see, I have now actually moved on. I've started furnishing the bathroom. Now, one of the things I was most excited to actually put into this house was this sink that we got with, I believe it was with Get Famous. We got a very similar one with Tiny Living, but I decided to go with the bigger and bulkier one just because this is a family home and it's not really a tiny house, and so I felt like this one was perfect for this bathroom. I did also just include some laundry, so this house does have laundry. If you don't want to play with it in your game, that's absolutely fine, you can just delete it, maybe replace it with a plant or something like that. But this bathroom does also just have a separate toilet, sink and shower, and I just used a base game bathtub and then a Get Famous shower and then a Tiny Living toilet as well. I'm actually really liking that toilet that we got with Tiny Living. I didn't actually really want any more toilets in the game, but I'm actually quite happy with that one because it's quite a modern toilet and I do actually really like it. But now moving on, I've started furnishing the bedroom. So I actually started off with the elders bedroom. So this would be where basically the grandparents live, if you want to put it into terms of the child's point of view. So this is where their nan and granddad live, or their grandma and grandpa, whatever you call it, wherever you're from, but this is basically where they sleep. And so in this room, as you can see, I went for a very statement wall. I went for this base game wallpaper, which I absolutely love, but I've always struggled to find a place in houses. I think I've used it once before in one of my modern houses. I just really love it, but I feel like it's so difficult to try and place in the normal just suburban homes I normally do, and so I was really excited to actually place it into this build. I actually put it on 2 of the walls. I felt like with this wallpaper being all of the walls, it would just be way too much, and so I decided to do the rest of the walls white, and I feel like it works really well. I did actually decide to go for the Get Famous bed, which you actually see me use in the other bedroom as well. I feel like it's the most mid-century bed that we have in the game, and so I decided to use it. But now I've actually moved on, I've started furnishing the child's bedroom, so I am so happy with this single bed that we got with Tiny Living. It was the first time I've used it, and I'm absolutely in love. I love all the swatches. It's just like the perfect bed for me. I really do like it. I wish we had some more wood swatches, but it does actually have all the wood swatches that we have on the other objects that come in Tiny Living, so I can't complain too much, but it would be nice to come in some other swatches as well as the ones that it does currently come in to match some of the other objects that we actually have in the game. So this room does actually have a little desk area for the child to maybe browse some websites, do their homework on, or maybe just write some stuff or play games or whatever they want to do. I really wanted there to be a little desk area in front of this window. I think this corner of the room is probably my favourite area in the house. I just think it works out so perfectly. I actually want to say that this room is my favourite room in the house. I just absolutely love it. It's so cute. I love all the Tiny Living stuff because there's actually quite a lot of Tiny Living in this room. I use the Tiny Living chest of drawers, and then I cluttered that up with some clutter objects. So we've got a little lunch box, we've got a little money box. I just think it's so adorable. You will see me also place some of these blank photo frames around in different places in the house, because for my save file I will actually fill them up with actually photos of the family. Just when I upload it they will be completely blank, but you can actually upload photos of your Sims families into it instead, so I think that's kind of a nice thing as well. I am also just going around this room and just cluttering it up a little bit more, adding some more decoration objects. I am also going to add this little teddy bear in the centre of the room, which I believe if a child plays with this when they're a child and then they actually become a doctor when they're in their adult life, I believe they actually get a moodlet of like achievement from having their childhood dream or something like that. I actually found that out a little while ago, and I think that's the most adorable little addition to the game, so I did actually place that in the middle of the room. I am just finishing off this room now though with this little bookcase that we actually got from My First Pet Stuff. I'm finding myself using this quite a lot recently. I don't know what it is, but in toddlers' bedrooms and in children's bedrooms it always seems to be my go-to bookcase. I just think it's so adorable and I really do like it. But now I'm actually moved on to the last room in this house, which is actually the child's mum's room, also one of the daughter's bedrooms. I'm trying to put it in the most clear way as possible, but basically the child's mum's room. So in here I did actually use the same bed like I mentioned from the other bedroom. I just used it in a different swatch. It's got a completely different colour palette, as you can see. I went for the white paneling and then just browny beigey kind of walls, which I think works quite well. I also do just have this little Get Famous chest of drawers, or it might be a bowling night chest of drawers, I'm not quite sure. It's one of the two. I always get them packs mixed up for some reason, and I can never remember the name of the bowling pack, but it's one of them too. But I am just cluttering that up now, and then I also do add some of the paintings that I actually use in the other room, just in some different swatches of the leafy prints. I really like them prints, and you're going to see me using them in quite a lot of my houses. But now I am actually just going to go in and finish this room up. I really wanted there to be another desk in this house, and so I decided to put it in the mum's room. It's quite a small desk, but I kind of had it in my mindset that she'd recently moved in, she hasn't really updated all the furniture yet. Maybe it was a desk that she had when she was a little girl or something like that. But anyway guys, I am actually coming to the end of this voiceover, so like always you can download this house via the gallery. My origin IG is JessicapieYT, or you can search the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. And like always, I hope you guys enjoyed watching me build this family mid-century home, and as always, if you do like my content then please subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.